One of the best ways to make a stunning image that allows the viewer to get the message and the image tied together in a beautiful way are quote images. These are the type of images that you see with words overlaid or cut out of the image to make it look more like art than just text on an image. To show you how to create this image that I have here, let's start with a generic background so we can make something stand out. I went and I found a picture of a pile of leaves. This will be our base that we'll use to create the image. The words that we create will go into the leaves to look like they're coming out of the leaves. To start, I'll write the words life. It's never too late to jump in over the leaves itself. Doing so creates the usual text over image effect, which is fine on its own, but we want to make the words look as if they're underneath the leaves or coming out of the leaves. To do this, let's create another background layer copy on top of the text. And we can drag the opacity down enough so that we can see the words behind it. Doing this will allow us to see what leaves overlap onto the letters, and we'll begin extracting the letters using the Quick Selection tool. We'll do this so it has some of the leaves on top to make the letters look good and buried. This is the most time-consuming process of this effect, as again, you want to make it look like the leaves are laying on top, so take your time to get the leaves to look good. Next, you'll want to create a layer mask after you've selected your leaves on your background layer copy. Click the new Layer Mask button. Change the opacity back to 100%. Next, you'll want to add a drop shadow to your top background layer, so the leaves create a kind of 3D effect on your letters. The last effect we'll make here that makes the letters look like they were placed there instead of just added to the image is a texture that looks like rough paper or stone. Do this through the Pattern Overlay effect. Change the opacity just down to about 20%. This will allow the text to look like it was placed into the leaves instead of our viewer thinking we added them manually. And that's it for this effect. It's a simple one that really makes some images pop and gets some great views. Welcome to our next introductory tutorial for Photoshop. Today's topic is about the healing brush and the spot healing brush. We'll be using it to show you how you can touch up blemishes on a photo. This is great for touching up photos of friends, family, and other things you need to make look good. We'll start by taking a photo of someone having blemishes on their face and opening it in Photoshop. Doing this will allow us to have something to work with to show off the healing brush. If we select the healing brush here on the left, with the nice bandage icon on it, you can see that we have options up at the top. Sampled is what you normally want to use for your restoration of your faces and such in your blemished images. Using this, we'll hold the Alt key and click on a spot we want to use as a basis for healing the image. Once we've done that, we'll heal a spot here, and you can see that the brush has figured out what to use nearby to make the healing effect of the brush take place. If we continue, we can remove all the blemishes, and it's a pretty amazing tool. Another way we can do this is, of course, with our spot healing brush, which will do something akin to the selection tool and automatically come up with what you want to heal. At the top are our options. We can do proximity match, which will use what's around the spot you want to heal to fix, create texture, which will create a mix of textures from around the image and is generally not good for face touch-ups. Content aware will try to guess based on what's on the layer itself and what seems appropriate here. Proximity match is actually one of the best options, and you'll see that it tries to fit the fixes in where it can. So be careful with your healing and have fun making faces and other things look great. Smart filters are one of the most powerful features of Photoshop. We'll start this tutorial by showing you how we can make a smart object, add a filter to the image without it being permanent, and show you the power of smart filters that way. We'll start by opening this image of flowers here, and you can see that we have a great setup of a butterfly and some flowers. What we want to do is convert this image into a smart object, and all we have to do is right-click on the image and then click Convert to Smart Object. Doing that will set us up for any filters we want to add to this image, and it can be quite addicting to add filters and mess with the image. So let's try to isolate the butterfly here from the rest of the image. What we want to do is go ahead and go to Filter, then go to Texture, and then Stained Glass. We'll fix the stained glass texture so that it looks smaller and looks good. We can see our butterfly in the back there. Next, we'll draw a nice quick selection around the butterfly. This is what we want to remain, and the rest stay in the stained glass filter. Last, we'll press Ctrl-I, which will put all the selection in black and allow us to see the butterfly. From there, we can tighten the mask around the butterfly so it looks like it's floating above the stained glass. And that's just the basics with what you can do with smart filters. Easy, simple to use, and you don't have to worry about them permanently editing the image this way. This next tutorial will go over the basics of how to create a great image dispersion effect. This effect is great because it looks like the image is being torn apart, but in a way that looks realistic and graphically amazing. Let's learn how to do this together. I've opened up an image of a man here. First, I'll start by creating a duplicate layer of the man in the background. Then I'll lasso over the man in the background layer. Right-click, and then do Fill. Make sure it's set to Content Aware, and it will let you fill in the background over the original man in the picture. We'll then select the entire model by using the Quick Selection tool. From here, depending on your Photoshop client, you can use Refine Edge or Select and Mask and give more of a refined edge to the hair on the model, so we can pick up individual hairs and outlines. Before clicking OK on the Refine Edge, let's output the selection to a layer mask. Now you can see the model is on a separate background. Let's duplicate the layer now. Then apply the mask we made from the previous layer. I'll rename this layer to the dispersion effect. Then I'll make a duplicate of this layer and rename it to man. Now I'll select the dispersion layer, then select Filter, then Liquify. Next, I'll warp the model using the forward warp tool so we can make sure we can have a nice canvas for our effect later. This will determine the size of the dispersion effect. Take your time with the liquify, then when you think you're done, hit OK. Now we'll make another mask, which we'll do by hitting Alt before clicking the new mask button, the little circle in a rectangle, so we fill the mask with black. This way, our dispersion effect is hidden until we need it. Before we continue, make the original background layer with our picture of our man hidden, so we can edit effects in. Now on our layer called Man, we'll make a new mask with no black filled in, so just click the new mask button without holding any keys down. Once we've done that, make sure you're on the Man layer's mask. Make sure your brush is set to black for the foreground color. Select the brush tool, then select a brush that will give a great dispersion effect. There are brushes out there for free that you can download that will give you the effect desired, so look for them. We'll edit the image to give a bit of a destroyed look. Then we'll switch to the dispersion layer and its mask as well. Switch the color to white and start masking in, uncovering the warped layer we did earlier. This will give you the effect of a dispersion going onto the image and looks really great. Experiment with this feature. It will allow you to create some really interesting images. Welcome back to our next tutorial in Photoshop, where we'll go over how to do a double exposure effect. A double exposure effect is how we'll blend two images together to make an interesting art project pop. Perhaps your client or project will want you to create some striking images here, and doing so through Photoshop, you will definitely wow the viewer of this image. Starting out, let's pick two images that we want to blend together. Here I'll blend an image of a beach ball with an orange. The idea of playing volleyball with a giant orange is pretty hilarious, don't you think? To start blending these two images together, I'll take the image of the orange, use the quick selection tool, and select the whole orange. Once I do that, I'll copy the orange selection into the image of the volleyball. As you can see here, the orange is way too large to be able to be blended with the volleyball. I'll need to scale the orange down to size. To do this, we'll need to make a copy of the volleyball layer to start off with. Drag the layer and make sure it's the top layer over the orange. Set the opacity to about 50%. Then we'll shrink the orange to about the same size of the volleyball. Do this by clicking the link icon up near the width and height. This way, with the opacity, we can see exactly what size we need the orange at. Apply the transformation when done. Next, we'll create a layer mask by clicking on the orange. Control-click the image to select all. Then move to the volleyball layer and click the New Mask button at the bottom. Once we have that mask, we'll make a copy of the orange layer and then make a black mask of that layer by holding the Alt key and clicking New Mask. Using the Quick Selection tool, we can select the parts of the volleyball we want to erase. Once we've gotten the image the way we want, you can see that it has this great dual blend effect of having a volleyball that looks like a huge orange. Make sure to leave on the background for the largest effect of showing off the volleyball orange in the scene. Now you know how to use layer masks to blend two images together. Welcome to the next tutorial in our Photoshop series. We'll be doing this tutorial about a great neon text effect for your text. It's a simple effect that will make it really fun to add text to your images of brick walls, or nighttime building photos, and more. First, we'll start out with a brick wall image. Any brick wall image will do, as we will put our text over it and make it glow. Let's add some text now to the image and write neon, probably in a cursive font of some kind. Make sure the font size is large enough to fit into the middle of the image. Next, we'll add a hue and saturation layer to the image, so select the background layer, then go to Layer, click New Adjustment Layer, and then Hue and Saturation. Set the saturation to pretty low, and the lightness as well, but not too dark. We want it to be bright enough that we can see the brick wall. Next, create a new layer which we'll call Clouds. You could do this, of course, by clicking the New Layer button at the bottom, which looks like a new page. Here we'll add clouds to the layer by clicking Filter, then Render, then Clouds. Create a black layer mask on that cloud layer by Alt-clicking the New Layer Mask button. Make sure your clouds layer is set to divide on the layer mode here. Let's use our brush tool here to uncover some clouds. Set the foreground color to white Make sure the layer mask is selected and set the opacity of our brush to about 50%. Make sure your brush hardness is also 0% as well. Once that's done, uncover some clouds behind the neon word. Next, we'll start working on our text. Make sure to change the font of the text to something blue if it isn't already. Then go into the layer blending modes. We'll add a bevel and emboss effect to the text, making sure the style is inner bevel. The technique is smooth. The depth 185, the direction up, the size 3, and the soften 16. We'll also add an inner shadow effect, where the blend mode is multiply, the opacity 40%, the distance 5, the choke 0, and the size 5. Then we'll add an inner glow effect, where the mode is screen, the opacity 75, the noise 0, the choke 0, and the size 8. Make sure to make the technique here source center. Then hit OK. Create a duplicate layer of that text. Put it below the top layer of text, then convert it to a smart object. Add a Gaussian filter using the filter dropdown, blur, then Gaussian blur. Set the radius to about 11 pixels. Now we'll create the wire that the neon sign is connected to the wall by creating a new layer above the clouds layer. Set your brush first to one with a full hardness, then about 13 pixels in width. Use the pen tool here on the layer and click and drag out a line across the layers here in a curvy wave. Right-click on the line and click Stroke Path. Make sure the Simulate Pressure option is turned on. Right-click the path, then click Delete Path. We'll add a blending layer effect to the line, bevel and emboss. Make sure that the depth is 245, size 0, and soften 3. Lastly, we'll add a more soft blue glow to the clouds in another layer. Add another layer on top of this layer, then switch to a soft brush with no hardness, with the size close to the size of our letters. Set the opacity to about 63%. Brush in some blue. Set the layer blending to soft light. And there you have it. Our neon sign is complete. Welcome to our next Photoshop tutorial. This time we'll be doing a great fire text effect. This can create a great illusion of text that looks like it's either made of fire or on fire. We've already started with a great fire effect image we'll use later in the tutorial. We'll proceed by opening a new file, making the height 1280 and the width 720. Change the background to black by using the Paint Bucket tool, and make sure the foreground color is black. Use the Text tool next, and a great tall font. I'll type the word fire here so we can see the effect on it later. Let's go to the blending options on our layer and add an outer glow. Change the color in the box here to F70300, then hit OK. Select the satin blending next and change that color to 872D0F, and hit OK as well. Change the opacity on the satin effect to 100%. Change the distance to 10 pixels then hit OK. Now select Inner Glow. Change the blend mode to color dodge here. Next, change the color to E5C23B. Then hit OK. Change the opacity to 100%, the size to 10 pixels, then hit OK. Now we're done with our text, so hit right-click on the text layer and rasterize our type. Now we're going to fade out the top of our fire text. So use the eraser tool and set the brush to 250 pixels with 0 hardness. Erase some of the text as you see here. Now we'll go up to Filter, Distort, then Zigzag. Set the amount to 4 and the ridges to 4. Make sure the style is set to Pond Ripples and hit OK. Now we'll select our fire image we've opened and copy that into our text image we're working on. Position the fire image over our text, then we'll switch over to the Channels tab here next to our layers. Hold Ctrl and click the green layer to load a selection of the areas of fire in our image. Head back to the Layers tab, then press Ctrl J to make a copy of the selection we got from the Channels tab. Delete our original fire layer. Here I'll rename the layer Fire Main to stay organized. We'll move the fire around to wherever we like in the image. From here, we'll resize the image to fit over our text, then duplicate the layers so we can make more fire effect on our text. Be sure to resize, rotate, and erase edges of the fire around the text so it looks like the text is on fire realistically. And that's how you do this effect.